The amazing thing about the OG PlayStation is that it means something different to everyone. For some, it was where they played genre definers like Metal Gear Solid and it changed the way they saw video games. For others, it's where they played weird, experimental, sometimes pretty flawed games like these that may not get the plaudits, but are in a whole other world of their own. Digimon has long played second fiddle to the Pokemon series, whether it's because your mum calls them Pokemon anyway, or the games are considered broadly better. Maybe that last point isn't quite as accurate these days, considering every new Switch Pokemon game seems like it was outsourced to your mum, while recent Digimon games are fairly well received, but that's a whole other story. Literally. The point we're making is this: nobody is going to forget about Pokemon while it's mostly left to the streets to keep the fires burning for the Digimon series. Nowhere is that more true than for Digimon World, which received pretty negative reviews upon launch, but for every child who played it, they made some kind of memory. Some may be confusing memories with black and white and grainy and all evil, but still. Admittedly, the story for Digimon World is bare bones as all hell, with the danger facing File Island and all the inhabitants having run away before the player character arrives. As a human who's been transported to File Island, thank God you aren't called Peter, you need to bring the Digimon back to the town while raising your own Digimon in the process. Here, the game becomes equal parts virtual pet simulator and action RPG, as you need to both feed and play with your steadily evolving Digimon while also taking them out into the field to fight with wild Digimon. Well, at least I guess so. See, I think about 90% of people who played this had no idea what was going on at any time as your little digital guy pooped himself into an early grave. Good, brilliant, bewildering times. Most regular PS1 owners who liked fighting games would have owned the classics, your Tekkens, your Street Fighter Alphas, maybe even a cheeky bit of Tobal or Battle Arena Deshinden as a treat. But the real ones were playing Psychic Force, and by real ones we do mean sickos and nutters who fell in love with the game's anime aesthetic and novel approach to fighting game combat. If there's one street that won't forget Psychic Force, it's 1 Vulture Avenue, the fictional address for our non-existent HQ. Psychic Force was one of the first games we remember talking about for the PS1. In that way, it feels like it's a part of the channel's history. Set in the far-flung future of 2010, Psychic Force follows a cast of characters who've been blessed with, you guessed it, psychic powers. Next you'll say there's some kind of force looking to do a bit of evil, wouldn't that be crazy? The game differs from other fighting games by being a fighting game set in a massive cube. Though the game is 3D, players can move in any direction on a 2D plane, with the goal to basically slam your opponent into the wall as much as possible in order to deal damage. With multiple cool ass characters to choose from, special moves and combos to learn for each one, and plenty of defensive options too, there's more to sink your teeth into here than you'd think. You could say it's loaded with fun stuff. If you're a British lad over 30, this is not that old magazine you'd see a boob in every so often. Instead, Loaded is one of several PS1 games that made a name for themselves by being edgy enough for you to physically cut yourself on them. It's not that surprising really, considering the character concepts were developed by artists Les Spink and Greg Staples of 2000 AD, which isn't known for its sunshine and rainbows vibes. Better still, a 12-page novella about the game was written by Garth Ennis of The Boys fame, so if you want to see what dark and edgy looks like before Homelander and Punisher Max, Loaded is the game for you. While Loaded certainly isn't the only game on PS1 that made a name for itself by being soaked in gore and off-colour jokes, Loaded had the virtue of being one of the first. The game launched in December of 1995 in America and felt like a statement piece for what the PS1 could be capable of. Granted, that statement was, look at all the blood and guts, but the visual effects, particularly the lighting, earned Loaded a lot of credit when the game first launched. As for the actual gameplay, critics were a lot less kind, considering Loaded is merely nothing more than a sci-fi's Gauntlet clone with homicidal maniacs instead of fantasy trope characters. Still, if you want to play as someone who looks like the Joker on a particularly bad day, Loaded offers just that. His name is Fwank, and frankly, he scares us a bit. The most positively received game so far in this video, Die Hard Trilogy was proof that ambition can sometimes pay off. Instead of just making one film tie-in game with one specific style of gameplay, developers Probe Entertainment decided to make 3 separate games for each film in the then Die Hard Trilogy. The guilt to live in a world where those extra Die Hard films just didn't happen. Ugh. Anyway, Die Hard Trilogy really made the most of the variety that each film excels in, offering 3 complete experiences with their own unique challenges in the process. Sometimes it's a choice between quality and quantity, but Die Hard Trilogy is a game that offers both, making it well worth seeking out if you haven't already. Compared to other PS1 games, the prices for this one are pretty decent too. As mentioned, each film in the Die Hard trilogy is represented by its own gameplay genre and structure, with the original Die Hard playing as a third-person shooter. Each level is a different floor filled with hostages and terrorists for McLeod to clear out. Die Hard 2, which is a more action-focused film, takes on the gameplay of an on-rails shooting gallery. Makes sense if you imagine John McClane on that horizontal escalator during the terminal shootout, or those conveyor belts in the luggage sorting room. Finally, Die Hard with a Vengeance is actually a racing game, as you're racing against time to defuse the bombs that Simon has placed all around New York. All 3 are thrilling and fun to play, making the whole trilogy a game people won't forget. Special mention should also go to the very forgotten sequel, Viva Las Vegas, which wasn't as well received as Die Hard Trilogy 1. Hey, speaking of. Another game that reviewed well at the time, but has seemingly become an obscure entry into the PS1's overall library, 1 doesn't get the love it deserves at this point. Those who love shoot 'em ups with a side of platforming will have had 1 on the radar at least, but compared to the majority of shooters that were released on the PS1, 1 isn't quite as remembered. Maybe that's because it doesn't have some memorable hook, like how Armageddon had Bruce Willis playing the lead character, or because more traditional shoot-em-ups like Gradius don't tend to age as well, but either way, 1's legacy isn't what it could have been. But it is the one for us. 1 is a linear blaster where players control the most video game arse named character in history, John Kane, who has woken up in an apartment building with no memories, a big gun in place of one of his arms, and a barcode at the back of his neck. If that's not enough of a reason why John Kane needs to find answers urgently, police helicopters have arrived and they're firing more missiles through the apartment window than an entire naval battleship. John then has to use his new firepower to blast his way through 6 levels and multiple bosses to find the answers he needs to survive. It is a pretty simple and repetitive game in all fairness, but if you want some obscure PS1 excitement where the things go boom, you can do a whole lot worse than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm so sorry. I'm a weak man. There's 2 trends that allowed for Vigilante 8 to launch on the PS1. The first is the practice of bringing PC games to console, albeit with a completely new name and sometimes a new coat of paint. The second is the sheer hype surrounding card combat games in the 90s, started by the likes of Twisted Metal and Carmageddon. Enter heroes of history, Activision, who had already released the game Interstate 76 on PC in 1997, a card combat game set in an alternate history where the oil crisis of 1973 hadn't been resolved and police have resorted to authoritarian tactics to maintain the peace. The result? Everyone starts strapping machine guns to their cars to become vigilantes. Because they didn't have the internal staff to develop a port, Activision hired then fledgling developer Luxoflux to bring Interstate 76 to consoles, but due to console limitations, the developers had to downsize the game with smaller maps. This fundamentally changed the core gameplay loop, creating a more action-oriented game that led Luxoflux to ask Activision to turn this into its own thing. Vigilante 8 was born, releasing a year after Interstate 76 on PS1, attracting plenty of positive reviews for its easy controls and stellar graphics, and it basically became a game that everyone's older brother or cousin owned, right? Luxoflux released a sequel in 1999 called The Vigilante 8 Second Offense, also for PS1, which added new characters, maps and modes, and released some more excellent reviews. Unfortunately, the series has been long dormant since a lackluster Xbox Live Arcade remake, aptly titled Vigilante 8 Arcade, which was released in 2008, taking elements from both games to create the minus of its parts. But don't worry, you'll always be the one for me. Is it any wonder that a game like Tunnel B1 was forgotten when it's got such a vague, nothing name like that? Tunnel B1 could be about anything, from a horror game to some kind of mining simulator, and then you look at the box art and you still have no idea. It's a name that gives you a setting at best, and you'll have to pick up the pieces by either playing the game or looking at the blurb on the back of the box. Turns out, Tunnel B1 is a first-person shooter where you're controlling a high-powered vehicle.
Which was the style at the time.
You pilot a heavily armed hovercraft and must speed down tightly packed corridors filled with sentry guns, helicopters and other threats that are planning to bomb you back into the Stone Age. What makes levels in Tunnel B1 so interesting and difficult is the fact that most of the levels are on a timer, meaning you have to plan your attacks, focus on the correct targets and reach a destination in time without getting murdered. Reviews at the time were the dictionary definition of mixed, with most praising the visuals while criticising the game's repetitive nature, but there's a good game here that both looks good while making you feel powerful. If you can get past the crappy name and the weird box art that you probably saw as a child in your local game shop and it kind of unsettled you a little bit, Tunnel B1 is worth soldiering through. The epitome of a Streets Won't Forget movie, Small Soldiers is a certified B-movie whipper. Based on the premise of Toy Story if it was a bit mental, Small Soldiers introduced the world to the diabolical evil schemes of Chip Hazard and the Commando Elite, along with the peaceful Gorgonites. It also gave the nightmare fuel that was the Gwendy Dolls scene. Never looked at a Barbie the same way again myself. Like all good films from the 90s, Small Soldiers even got itself a video game tie-in, which makes sense. A film about toys? Let's make a game for the most popular toy of the modern day, and that was of course a video game console. What makes the PS1 version of Small Soldiers interesting though is how it fits into the film's established fictional lore. Let me explain. Instead of just retelling the events of the film with young lad Alan Abernathy defending the Gorgonites against Hazard and his bad boys, Small Soldiers on PS1 is based on the mythology of Gorgon itself. It's essentially the made-up backstory for the toys that would be used to sell the toys in universe. In fact, you could almost believe that the game Small Soldiers would exist within the film's world, marketed to kids who've already bought the toys. Maybe that's too much theorizing and analysis for a third-person shooter film tie-in, and maybe we're giving the game's developers a bit too much credit, but it's interesting to think about. The gameplay itself is pretty fun with some nice animations and a really quite chilling atmosphere sometimes. It genuinely scared me as a kid. Let me know what game spooked you that shouldn't have down in the comments below. One of the secrets to becoming a Streets Won't Forget game, especially on the PS1, is having the game appear on various magazine demo discs. Many of the biggest and most recognisable games in the PS1 built up their groundswell of support just by featuring their game on some kind of demo disc. Those demo discs for both PS1 and even PS2 really shaped the interests of an entire generation, and one game in particular that earned that benefit on PS1 was Akuji the Heartless. Sure, it might not be as big as other Crystal Dynamics games like Legacy Arcane, but those who love Akuji the Heartless really bloody love it. We've seen some of you sickos in the comments who gassed this game up, so here you go. Sweet, sweet validation. An action-adventure game with large, free-roaming levels, Akuji the Heartless is about a voodoo priest with plenty of spells and retractable claws finding himself cursed to wander the underworld after having his heart ripped out on his wedding day. Actually, literally, as well, like, the bride didn't just run away from the altar like it's the newest season of Love is Blind. No, Akuji's brother decided he wanted to kidnap that ticker for himself. Players then try to escape from the underworld to rescue Akuji's bride and seek revenge against his own brother. There's plenty of varied spells to choose from, including the ability to summon demons or possess the bodies of fallen warriors. Akuji the Heartless is the poster child of a Streets Won't Forget game, mostly because we think if we do forget it, we'd get hit with a voodoo curse or something. Yo, look at the time, we're nearly done for today, if you can believe it. If Small Soldiers is a film that the streets won't forget, Jackie Chan is the movie star that no one will forget. The guy arguably brought kung fu and martial arts cinema to a whole new generation in the same way that Bruce Lee did. His impact is undeniable and no one will ever forget his name. Also, the Jackie Chan Adventures was the best cartoon going, just saying. While his impact on films and TV is massive, his impact on video games isn't as massive. The Jackie Chan adventures had a few tie-ins which were decent, the GBA one more so, but Chan's other games aren't quite as good. We're looking at you, Arcade released the Kung Fu Master Jackie Chan, which was just a poor man's Mortal Kombat clone sold off the back of Chan's name. One Jackie Chan game that beat-em-up lovers on PS1 will never forget though is Jackie Chan Stunt Master. A 3D platforming beat-em-up, players control Jackie as he tries to rescue his granddad from a group of villains. Cue Jackie battering his way through hordes of goons across New York City in 15 pretty fun levels. What perhaps makes Jackie Chan Stunt Master one of the most interesting releases, both on PS1 and from the martial arts legend, is how involved Jackie was in the process of the game's development. Jackie motion captured all the moves and attacks, meaning players were, in a manner of speaking, controlling Jackie Chan himself. Reviews weren't exactly glowing at the time, but there's been worse beat-em-ups in history, and if you tell people Jackie Chan is involved, most people would be convinced to give it a go anyway. The power of Chan, man. Outro gang, the Chris Tuckers to my Jackie Chan, how are ya? What do you think I was missing here? Or can you recommend any other PS1 like 7 out of 10 games that you and your mates loved, or maybe just you loved but nobody else did? Let me know down in the comments down below. I've been Jimmy for Culture Vultures, been good to have you, and I'll catch ya when I catch ya.